Hello and welcome to another episode of Sharing Wisdom. I'm your host, Angie Wisdom, and today it's me and you again solo. So what I'm bringing you today is a concept that might be a little bit new, but is life-changing. You got to trust me on this. We are a society that puts a lot of emphasis on learning skills, educating with information, which is all great. But we often skip over the fact that we as the person are the one who is responsible of implementing and executing those skills in education. So what I really want to bring you to today and what I really want you to walk away with is an understanding of why it's so important that you, the executor of these skills and information, are in your very peak potential, that you have the highest ability to execute what you learn, execute what you read, execute what you observe, anything that you're trying to expand in your business and your life. The key component is going to be you. And most people skip this work. Most people want to focus on, like I said, the skills, and they don't do the inside work. And some of my favorite books, like Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. More recently, The Paradigm, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. Both of these books give such a great illustration of how the work to be done is really the inside work, that we need to do the internal work before we do the external work. So that's what I'm taking you through today. We are going to talk about you creating a relationship with yourself, a 10 out of 10 relationship with yourself that is going to allow you to use everything you take in externally to your highest ability. I'm going to talk to you about how we can take two people learning the same information and why one is going to execute it better than the other, and why that actually causes a lack of confidence and a deficit if we're taking an information skill set, but we're not able to convert it and use it the way that other people are. So it's a lot for you today, I will tell you that. But as I said, life-changing in both fulfillment and success. Okay, so let's start with a goal. A goal of everybody wants to be happy. Many times when people come to me, whether it's through a DM, an email, coaching, anything like that, it's like, what's the number one thing that we want? And it's always happiness, some kind of joy, some kind of fulfillment. And when you translate that, my translation of happiness is really being able to create meaningful success in a life that you love. It's both in the impact of what you do for other people, but also the way that you live and find fulfillment in your own life. So if we approach it from that perspective, then we can understand how to create it. Now, what I often see is people think that happiness comes in the form of maybe major accomplishments, whether it's monetary, whether it's material items, hitting certain benchmarks that they believe that are going to bring them fulfillment, and it doesn't. And so if you think about it, if we originally thought that happiness was in all of these things, right? The next level of our career, the next car, boat, plane, house, accomplishment, then that's what gets our mind focused on what skill do I need to learn? How do I increase my sales? How do I increase marketing, relationship building, all these things that have us focusing on the skill because we believe that if we have the skill, we will master the craft, which will bring us the money and the success, which will create happiness. False narrative, right? We got to wipe that out of our mind altogether and really come back to this understanding of happiness is creating meaningful success, making an impact, being of purpose in this world, and living a life that you love, being able to fill yourself up with the things that you love that make a difference for you. And if we approach it from that perspective, then it really allows us to go, then what do I need to learn? And it allows us to create some space to go, okay, well, let's shift away from some of those skills of time management, sales, marketing, social media. Let's shift away from some of that and let's start thinking about if I'm going to make an impact, if I'm going to create meaningful success, if I'm going to have a life that I truly love, then what do I really need to lean into here? And that's the internal piece. That's the relationship with yourself. And if we break that down, it looks like, actually, I'm going to tell you how to look at it from your own relationships. Think about it from this perspective. Pick that relationship in your life that you have with somebody that you just love, where you trust them, where you depend on them, where you know so much about them, where it feels comfortable in a good way, right? That you value them, all of those components. When you think about that relationship and everything that it has in it, that's the relationship that I want you to create with yourself. It's that relationship that allows you to come back to that goal of meaningful success in a life that you love. So it's that internal piece that we have to work on in order to contribute externally and have that life that we love. And if we kind of put this side by side, like two people, as I mentioned earlier, think about it as the information. We have this cloud, right, of skills, of information, of education. They come down, right? We take them in. It passes through us. We are the filter. We're going to take this information, we're going to use it inside, and then we're going to share it. We're going to export. So we're importing and exporting all of this information, all of these skills. So if we're importing information and what we have inside, the self-trust, the value, the authenticity, the mindset, if that is not working correctly, then how do you think our output is going to look? The output is not going to be the same. The skills and everything that we learned are actually going to come out worse than we received them because we filtered it through a system that isn't operating at its fullest potential. But the reverse of that, if we take all of these things that we learn and we filter them through ourselves, and we have a relationship with ourselves, and we're filtering it through self-trust, we're filtering it through our authentic self, our values, our mindset, our responsibility, we're filtering it through all of that, guess what happens with that information? We actually increase the potential of that information. We're going to take all that skills and education and we're going to make it even better than it was before. And this is what I'm trying to drive home to you all, is how important it is, you as the vessel, you as the producer, how important it is that the information that you take in goes through the proper potential system in order to create that life and success that you want. So hopefully you're all following with me now. And if you need a little visual here, if we take two people and we think about giving them the same skill set, the same information. Let's take sales training, for example. And I can even take this back to a personal example. When I started out in my investment career back in Morgan Stanley, 1997, as a financial advisor, one of the first events I went to was, I think his name was Steve Johnson, and it was, if you're not outselling, you're being outsold. And it was a whole presentation on how to sell. So you have me in the room picking up this information, right? These skills, taking it from the cloud in, and then you've got another person over here. Let's call her Susie, right? She's taking in this information. Now, I am okay to admit that in that point in my life, my operating system was not at its full potential. I was not showing up authentically. I did not really trust myself. I certainly wasn't getting my values in. I wasn't controlling my mindset. So the information that I received from that event on selling came out worse than what Susie received, right? If we take Susie and she's like, I'm confident. I've got a great mindset. I fill myself up. I trust myself. I'm authentic. She took this information and she did a lot with it, right? Her sales increased. Her fulfillment increased. All of everything that we want, that meaningful success in a life that we love, she was able to use that to create it. I took this in, couldn't use it right because my operating system wasn't right. And so then where do you think I end up? In a place of lower confidence, going, what's wrong with me? I just learned all of this information on selling. If I'm not selling, I'm being outsold. If I'm not outselling, I'm being outsold. So now I'm in the state of going, oh my gosh, now I'm being outsold, right? Because I can't implement this. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is that we can have two people that receive the same information, and the output and the result is going to be drastically different based upon their internal operating system. So you can see why it's so important that we have this inner work done so that we can take the information, convert it into something bigger. And I often share that story of being at that first event and going, gosh, what's wrong with me, right? And it took me a while to really realize, like, understanding why I couldn't implement some of the stuff that I learned at any event. And it took me kind of running into a wall of being unfulfilled, and that's a whole nother story, but being unfulfilled that made me go, I've got to do some of that inner work. But to give you an idea, that was in 1997. I was 23 years old as that financial advisor. I still did well. Don't get me wrong. I definitely was successful and I did well, but I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't authentic, wasn't operating at my highest self. Once I started to understand what was missing and I did this internal work, by 29, I started my own investment firm with my husband. We had well over 10x'd what I ever made before, but it came from a place of a relationship with myself that led me, that I trusted, that allowed me to fill myself up, that allowed me to control my mindset, that allowed me to take responsibility for what I wanted. All of those pieces. And it wasn't that I learned something so drastically different about selling, about marketing, about any of those pieces that you think make everything work so well. I already had that. I just didn't have the right system to run it through. So there's a case study there, and it's why, literally why, I kind of left the financial industry to help people with this exact process. I'm still co-owner of the investment firm and I have my hand in it from a legal and compliance standpoint, but my passion now lies within a space of going, there's a better way to do this. That the most important relationship you will ever have in your life is the relationship with you. That you have to be able to trust yourself, to guide yourself, to lead yourself, right? To take responsibility for what you want, to create what you want. And that's my passion. That's why I do this every single day. And so if I just left you there, you'd be like, well, how? How in the world do we do this, right? And it's why I use that example of create a relationship at 10 out of 10 with yourself, because that's the easiest way to do it. If I left this podcast and I just said, hey, you got to go create this relationship with yourself, work on your mindset and be authentic and create your life intentionally. Like where, how would be the question. And so over the years, I've created the non-negotiable you, the morning mindset, pieces that are tactical ways to create this relationship with yourself so that you can have all your inner workings running smoothly, that you are performing at your highest potential so that everything that comes in externally is filtered correctly and used to the highest degree. So let's talk about that a little bit. If you are sitting here now going, this makes sense. This makes so much sense. Like now I get it. Why I don't always make use of what I read, what I hear, why it still feels hard to me. So if you're on board and you're understanding and buying in that this relationship you create with yourself is the most important, there's an easy way to do it. And so going back to that relationship that I said, remember a relationship in your life that you really honor, respect, love, look at those key components of what's in that relationship. And you'll find the things that I mentioned earlier, right? There's accountability. You show up for somebody in that relationship. You trust that person. You put honesty in there. You pour into that person, right? You're dependable. All these key components. How often do you do that with yourself? Honestly, like right now, think about that. Like how often do you show up for the relationship with yourself in the same way that you show up in the relationship that you value most in your life? And if we're being honest here, you're probably recognizing that there's a big gap. There's a big discrepancy there. That's the work, my friend. That's the work that we have to do when we can level up the relationship you have with yourself to match that favorite relationship in your life. Now we're on the right track. And so again, going back to how do we do that? It's about getting to know yourself. It's about spending time with yourself. It's about giving yourself what you need. So it starts with this self-awareness. Like, we first have to know in order to grow. So some of my favorite ways to do that are journaling, whether it's prompted or whether it's creation every single day. And I'll explain the difference there. But when you spend time with yourself, you get to know yourself. And most people don't spend time with themselves. You are 24 hours a day, go, 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 go. Everyone else needs something from you. It's all externally driven. So there is no time for just you. So when you sit down with yourself and you take time to journal, you spend time with yourself, you get to know yourself. So that's part of it, is that awareness. And again, kind of going back to the different journaling aspects, you can do freeform journaling. Simply pick a question to write on. What's the most memorable moment of my life? Journal on it. What was one of the most fearful moments of my life? Journal on it. Who makes me laugh? Journal on it. What brings me joy? Journal it. What am I most afraid of? Where do I want to travel? What do I like to do more than anything else? What puts a smile on my face? What brings me to tears? What keeps me up at night? I mean, the list goes on and on. Start journaling a question like that every single day. You are going to learn things about yourself that you never even knew. We keep things deep down inside, buried below our conscious mind, because we don't spend the time to dig them out. So if you start journaling like that, you're going to find a wealth of information about yourself. You are going to be shocked. And I'm speaking from experience here. We just led a 30-day Funk It challenge. My friend Steph and I, for a bunch of people, and I had them journaling every day. And I jumped in and did this as well. And I found things that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. But you know what the most interesting thing was? I was journaling on, one of the questions was, what are you most proud of in your life? And as I sat there, I was like, I was thinking about it, and a lot of things pop in. And as my hand started writing, do you know what I wrote? The thing I'm most proud of in my life is the work that I've done on myself. I wouldn't have ever consciously thought about that. I love what I've done for myself. I love who I am and how I show up every day. But that thought never occurred to me as being the thing that I'm most proud of. So I was like, wow, which is great, huge confirmation, right? That I'm passionate about this and it is the thing I'm most proud of. But you learn these things when you spend time with yourself. So that's kind of like a single prompt. Getting to know yourself is a great place to start. Kind of a create your day format. And if you've been listening to me or you follow me, maybe you already have my morning mindset journal. That's more of a several prompts, 7 prompts and a reflection at the end of the day. Great way to create a relationship with yourself. And not only to create the relationship with yourself, but to work on these other aspects that create the highest potential system inside for you, like your mindset, like your visualization, your gratitude. There's a lot of different components in there, and I'll break it down for you. But when you spend that kind of quality time with yourself working on all these different aspects, again, you start to change who you are internally, and that operating system changes for the better. Now, I originally created this journal, The Morning Mindset, because I saw people running into the same obstacles again and again and again. Some of the obstacles that I ran into back in 1997 when I was a financial advisor, like I was sharing with you, where I wasn't authentic. I wasn't creating what I wanted every single day. I didn't have this rock solid mindset. Things bothered me. I tried to have control in the wrong places. So I created the Morning Mindset Journal from reverse engineering the things that I saw would trip people up. And it just so happens that it's also this beautiful practice to create the relationship with yourself. And the prompts go like this. And I'll link the PDF version of it in the show notes so you can download it and you can start using it. But it's about creating self-awareness. How do I feel? Simply answer. What do I want to do about it? That creates awareness, self-awareness, and empowerment, right? You're realizing how you feel. You're realizing what you can do about it. Step 1. Step 2, what are your intentions for the day? What are you going to create from your day? Most people live in a very reactive state. And it's like, what do people need from me? What do people want from me? But when you set out and you plan, not a to-do list, but what you intend for this day, you start to take responsibility for what you want to create in your life. You get off the hamster wheel. You are no longer just a victim to your day. You don't end up at the end of the day going, oh my gosh, I was so busy, but I don't even feel like I got anything done. So that really gets you into this, what do I want in my life? How do I take action to create it? Then you move into affirmations. And I know I used to be really affirmations. These are a little woo-woo-y. I am a believer. When you understand the way your mind works, that when you feed it a thought, it changes your feeling, which changes your action. You can understand why affirmations work, why gratitude works, why visualization works. 3 key components of this morning mindset journal. Because again, that's how the mind works. If we think something, we feel something. If we feel something, we do something. The problem is, most of the time, the thoughts that we think are negative. Believe it or not, the majority of the thoughts that you think are negative, and they're repeating on a daily basis. So if you are not in the position to control your own mind, the odds are way against you that you are going to think positively and move your life in the right direction. Harsh reality, but it's true. So you have to be able to catch your thoughts and control them. So in this morning mindset practice, if you're spending time writing affirmations, you're deciding who you are. You're deciding the thought that you want to embrace, whether it is you're peaceful, whether you're creative, whether you're loving, whether you're successful, whatever affirmation you want to put down there, you are giving your mind that message. That message is going to create a different feeling for you, and then you are going to take an action. That often aligns with the intentions that you wrote. The next section goes into gratitude. What are you grateful for? And now this isn't just a section about stating the obvious. It's more of a mindset shifter. When you start to write down things that you're grateful for, not just things that are, butterflies and rainbows, but things that maybe don't seem obvious to be grateful for, you start to change your perspective on things. And when I look at the most successful, happy people in this world, they constantly shift their perspective. It's called cognitive reframing. One of my favorite movies, documentary, Mission Joy, with the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu. It's all about your perspective on life and cognitive reframing. If you start to practice gratitude for the things that don't seem really good in your life, your mind sees things from a different perspective. You start to see opportunity in everything. You will eventually just, out of habit, see things from different perspectives, which can bring you more joy, more fulfillment, more success. The list goes on and on. And then after the gratitude, you move into prayer. What are you praying for? And it doesn't have to be, I'm not here to coach you on spirituality or religion. You kind of decide that path on your own. But you have to be willing to say what you want. You have to be willing to put it out there in the universe. Think about it. Ask for it. Because again, that's all part of the energy. It's all part of our belief system in saying, hey, this is what I want. This is what I'm praying for in my life. So that our brain starts to look for those opportunities, starts to attract them. People often talk about manifestation or, the energy attraction. I mean, scientifically, it's part of our brain, the reticular activating system. When we think about something, it tells our brain to start looking for that particular thing. So praying for it falls into that category. And then after praying, you move into visualization. What do you see in your day? What do you see in your life? Again, we need to start showing our mind what we want and what we see, because that is what we're going to walk towards, how we're going to bring that into our life. So if you think about that, those 7 steps or so, if you sat down with yourself and did that every single day, you would become self-aware. You would be committed to yourself because you're taking consistent action every single day. You'd start trusting yourself, start getting to know yourself. You'd start shifting your mindset massively. You'd start taking responsibility for what you want in your life. And that right there, that's the 10 out of 10 relationship, you all. That's what I'm talking about. You do that every day. Now look at this relationship that you have with yourself. Now we go back to what do we learn? What do we see? Filter it through this highest potential version of you. Output is greater than input. And the last piece of it is you've done this in the morning. You've created this relationship. You got to check in with yourself, right? That relationship that you have with somebody else. If there was something going on, you check in with them, right? Well, how was your day today? How did that meeting go? How was your workout, right? You check in with other people you have relationships with. Check back in with yourself. So at the end of the day, when you look at your day and you ask yourself, like, did I find joy? Did my values show up? Did I accomplish my intentions? What was my win? Where was my joy? All of that, like, you're showing yourself that you care. You're also learning. If you didn't accomplish your intentions, this isn't punishment, it's awareness. What got in the way? I keep saying I'm going to send that email out, but I'm not. What did I learn? Right? Then you start to understand how you operate. And again, you know yourself really, really well. So it's a foolproof process to create a relationship with yourself that levels up your internal operating system to allow you to take external information, optimize it to the highest degree, and use it to get exponential results. And I speak of it in a way of what it can create for you. And I know many of you are probably thinking like, ooh, success, which is great. But it's about more than that. It's about the fulfillment that you get from it. It's about the joy that it brings in your life, the peace. Oh my gosh, the peace that it brings in your life. The peace knowing that you can trust yourself and guide yourself, and you don't have to constantly look for the external validation or noise to lead you is huge. So it's a different way of life. It's not what we're used to. It's not how we were taught in school. It's not how the norm is out there, but it's changing. And people are starting to realize that the most important work that you do is the work on you. So I really want to encourage you. Think about the relationship you have with yourself. On a scale of 1 to 10, take these couple measurements. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the relationship you have with yourself when it comes to like self-awareness, self-love, giving yourself what you need, being able to control your mindset, taking responsibility for what you want? How would you rate yourself? Is there room for improvement there? Then I also want you to think about your internal operating system. When you take information in, how's the conversion rate? How do you take that and then utilize it? Do you listen, convert to the highest ability and execute and get great results? Or do you take it in, kind of get stuck in the system, you don't do anything with it, and you just wonder why things don't change? That's a sign that something's broken within the internal system. So if you can create awareness on those two pieces, then you can give yourself the opportunity to decide whether or not you want to work on changing it. And if you decide, yeah, I do, then your step is simple. Start to know yourself. I will put in the show notes some journaling prompts. I will put in the show notes the morning mindset PDF. So you have two tools that I promise you will start to create a relationship with yourself that you will see an impact from. And then you decide. Test it out. See what kind of information that you take in and what you start doing with it differently. And I want to know. So send me a message. If you're already using the journal, send me a message and let me know how it's going. If you want some accountability and you're jumping into this, reach out. If you know somebody that should do this with you, send this to them. But it's all about you. You are the most important piece of the puzzle. So do the work to show up for yourself. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.